So you're listening to the radio.
Yeah. So this morning I was driving, and I was listening to the community radio show, and it was called Positively Revolt, something like that. And the whole topic was talking about basically the police becoming militarized and the system feeling really unjust and the government not really being there for the people, and they were really trying to show people what was really going on and also gather people to stand up and basically speak up and revolt or rebel or rally or, you know, make demands. And so I was just listening to this, and of course it brought up a lot of different thoughts for me, but
yeah, it's interesting, the whole, like, calling people to revolt thing. I guess for me, like, I hear it and I want to validate people to, like, if they're angry, to, like, acknowledge that and, like, recognize that that energy is powerful, you know? And also, like, also use it to combine it with a belief that we can create something that we want, you know?
Right. Cause
that's where it can be really useful, you know?
That's what was coming to mind as I'm listening, and I'm listening to all these people that sound really angry, and maybe they have reasons to feel angry, you know, but I'm thinking, okay, well, what are we're going to revolt, and we're going to, you know, make demands that, you know, legislation changes, or we're going to make demands, but, like, really, what are we revolting towards? Because if we just use our anger to express that anger towards this perpetrator that's outside of ourselves, that's what we're always doing, you know?
Right.
It's this repeat of I'm angry and there's a perpetrator that's outside of myself. And that might also be true, but to me, it makes me think, like, we've had so many different civilizations rise and fall and rise and fall, and even different structures of government, from monarchy to capitalist democracy to communism, where people are still dissatisfied, people are still unhappy, even in these different structures of government. And so that's what I was thinking is, well, you're going to rise up and you're going to change the government structure, maybe, but what came to mind for me is the values. Because if the values, the core value systems of the individual and collective people, if that doesn't change, then it doesn't matter what structure you give to the government, people are still going to be unsatisfied, which history for the last several thousands of years continues to show us. And so I just want to say, look, we're just going to repeat, you know, the rise and fall of Babylonia, of Greece, of Rome, of, you know, so I agree that there's something to be angry about and that something needs to change, but in a different way, through value systems.
Right, and there's a kind of, with that mentality of, like, we're making demands, sometimes goes a kind of, you know, we're not being heard or recognized or valued in this system. And it's tricky because, like, so I'm thinking on a personal level, like, say I keep saying really mean things to you.
Yeah.
You know, and so what do? You're like, hey, that was really mean. Stop yelling at me. You know, like, you're so mean. I hate you.
Right.
Which is a lot of the feeling I hear in the, like, we're going to revolt against these
I don't
bigots
deserve
and these
you to
idiots
yell at
and,
me.
you know, right. And so there's a natural reaction there of defending oneself because you're feeling hurt.
Which is a reaction that's there for self-protection, like, it's there for a reason.
Yet if you follow it through, like, what is the wisest choice of action? Like, for me to say mean things to you and you to say mean things back is going to escalate it, and it's going to create more of the same. So this is what you're saying, like, on a larger scale, how could we choose not to react, but choose to respond and, like, create something that might work better?
Well, and what I've noticed is, like, if someone's giving me hostile energy, like, kill them with kindness, you know? Because then if I go, okay, I'm just going to be kind, it almost, like, pops the wind out of their, it brings the wind out of their sails. It pops the balloon and it deflates that hostile energy. Because, man, if someone's just being really kind to you,
it's really hard.
It's really hard to keep being grumpy at them,
Right.
And so.
And then there's situations where, for whatever reason, maybe the racial tension is so high that moment doesn't even come to fruition where someone has a chance to respond that way or not.
Right.
And that, that's the result of lots of years of tension. But let's continue to say, for example, that, this could apply, on a larger scale. That's sort of the challenge, I guess.
Well, what I was thinking too is, I guess, two things. One being, yes, in some moments there's actually an acute emergency that's going on where someone needs to protect themselves, period, if it's an acute situation. But if the acute situation has happened, now.
But even in that situation, diffusion.
Rather than
so
escalation.
Easy,
yeah.
right, to be like, but that's going to bring on the guns.
And that's value systems right there, right? Because if I have to be right in that moment,
then
I'm going to keep
it.
pushing. Right. But if I can go, I don't need to be right in this moment. And what this all comes down to for me is how we feel about and treat ourselves.
Right.
Because if I am a really insecure person who's beating on myself, I'm going to look outside for that reassurance. And I'm going to want to be powerful over people outside me and be right over people outside me if I don't feel that from within.
Validation, right.
And so then if I'm in that place of needing validation and feeling insecure because I don't have that level of self-trust and self-love, then the values that I see wrapping around that kind of emotional place are values that value power and value being right and often tend towards feelings of victimization.
Right. Whereas if you're feeling strong within and I say mean things to you and I'm intimidating you, then you would say, hey, you can have that.
And let's say it was becoming really violent to where I didn't trust that you would be safe, because
I'm going to punch you in the face.
On the one hand, yes, if I'm secure inside myself and I treat myself in a way that's kind and healthy, it's not going to bother me so much. However, I still might want to change the situation, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to choose to do it in a way that's responding rather than reacting, in a way that I can use the tools of kindness. I can, show by example. Which is different than revolting.
And let's be honest, I can only be really mean to you if I'm really hurting inside too.
Right?
Someone can only really abuse their power position if they're hurt in some way. And so the kindness can appeal to that hurt part inside people, I think.
That's a really good
reminder. In a really powerful way,
No, that's a good reminder because I often try to remember, if I get triggered because someone did something nasty towards me, I try to remember that, because it's true for me, I only act nasty towards someone when I'm hurting myself, and someone only acts nasty if I can remember that they're hurting themselves, which, yeah, I just want to say, this talk show was calling to action, and the action that I want to call is a examining of our cultural story and the values that our actions come from.
Right. Because if we had a culture which supported everyone to feel emotionally secure, none of this would be happening.
I think so.
I really believe that.
Well, and that's right, because if there's a hierarchy of power, and power is what's valued, we were talking about this earlier, does the culture exemplify that what is more valued is power, or what is more valued is relationships? That's a key difference that I see when we study.
I'd say harmony in relationships too.
Harmony in relationships.
Because power is a relationship too.
Right.
But are you trying to get more power, or are you trying to build relationships?
And those are value systems. Our culture, I think, when you look out in the media and when you look and when you listen to the radio, I mean, movies, the whole thing, like, even within households and at school, we're valuing power, whether it's getting power for our external beauty, getting power for our intellectual ability, getting power for our physical strength, getting power in terms of having money, any form of power,
right.
our place in the government or in the political, class structure, whatever it is, like, I see that being more valuable than building strong relationships. And I see in this culture, people believe that that's where our safety and security come from, because in this culture that's what's valued. But I do believe that if we could shift our values, we could find our safety and security in relationships with each other.
Right.
Which to me, if that's true, is even more deeply lasting.
Right.
And rewarding.
Right. A lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, let's encourage the rallying revolutionaries to, like, make it a revolution of self-love and relationship with self, because we can't build those trusting relationships unless we start with ourselves.
Yeah,
it seems.
So.
And to me, a core part of that, which relates to this whole thing you heard on the news, is whenever something is upsetting to me, it's about me. Because if I've done my work and processed through, my experiences being harassed because I'm a woman, for example, if I've worked through that and someone comes towards me with harassing energy, I don't care. It doesn't bother me.
And I find that if you've worked through it, then the person who's looking for someone to victimize, the person
they have
who's
no
looking,
power, right?
They're going to look at you, and you're not playing that.
Right.
So they're less likely to go for you, and more likely to go for someone who's still feeling that lack of self-worth, or that self-loathing, or who's more feeling in the place of victimization rather than feeling self-responsible.
Right.
So I feel like it's double-sided. As you stop letting it bother you so much, you also start calling in something different, and that's
really
what
true. Yeah.
That's what I was also suggesting, is a possibility that rather than focusing on destroying something, focus on what are we going to create new. Because in creating something new, there's that tension, and then what's old has to eventually give way if what we're building new is strong enough.
And how can we build something that supports ourselves and others to be emotionally secure?
Yes, that would be what we're going to build.
That's what we're going to build.
And if we build that first, and then the other gives way to that versus destroying the other, and then only having the old tools,
then we'll just rebuild the same thing.
Which we've been doing for thousands and thousands of years. So again, say that one more time. What we're building is a structure that promotes emotional security.
Right, in ourselves, and encourages us to support others.
And values in relationships with self and other,
Yeah.
Cool.
Solved. Good chat.